to Bufu, the podcast by us and for you. It's the podcast where two melanated lesbians in New York City share our perfect opinions. I'm Priya, and today I'm joined by the podcast princess, Tribble. Tribble is a stand-up comedian, podcast producer, and catfish, currently living in Atlanta. Currently, Tribble is the podcast producer for the popular podcast Deadass with Kadeen and Duvall Ellis at iHeartMedia. She's the founder of the podcast production and consultation agency Ask Tribble Inc. And Tribble is the driving force behind this podcast that you're listening to, buffoons. We wouldn't be here without Tribble. She gave us all the guidance and technical advice and confidence that we needed to get this running. Even today, before we signed on, she was helping me with some tech. And most importantly, she is my sister. So welcome, Tribble, to Bufu.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I feel so important, so famous. Thank you.
You are. You're the glue that keeps me and Mana together on this
That is
podcast. So
beautiful.
thank
That
you,
is
Tribble, for
beautiful.
real. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Today it's a beautiful day in Atlanta. It's been really nice this week. The sun
It
is
is.
shining. I'm hot. You know what I'm saying? I woke up today. I looked at the mirror and
Yes,
said, "You're a
exactly.
bad bitch," honestly. Like
You are. I love that. Every time I see your stories, I'm just like, yay, Tribble's face. Like
I love that.
heart, heart, heart. I'm your
I
number one
love
fan.
that you're my biggest fan. I always tell people like Thivia trolls me for positivity. Like you're my positivity troll. Everybody should have one. Like
Yes. I'm like, how can I be my most annoying self, but still show you
yes,
love?
and it works. It works so well. It works so freaking well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So we can jump into our culture catch-up section. I want to talk to you about a movie that I watched recently called Drive Away Dolls. Have you heard of
No,
it?
this is the first time I'm hearing about it, but it's gay.
Okay. It's gay as hell. It's about two lesbians making like a road trip. I think and it's set in like the 90s.
Okay, we love the 90s.
So it's a period piece,
Yeah.
It's of its
Which is so
time.
sad now because I remember the 90s. Like that being a period piece, like
Yeah,
I'm old as hell.
I know. But it really is like, oh, they didn't have any cell
Yeah.
phones. That they were doing a road trip, they had like a printed out map or maybe not even a printed out. I don't
I
even
was
know.
gonna
There's
say,
no
and
computer.
they had to
Actually
go
they had
to
like
the
a map
library to
book.
print that map too. Like they couldn't even print it at home.
Yeah.
Yes. Back when
Exactly. And a lot of
Kinkos.
the plot point was like, "Where's my friend? I can't find her." And it's like you would not have that problem today.
That
You would pull up your Find My Friends app.
that's the thing. Like I've done a little bit of screenwriting in my day, and the hardest thing is to
Oh,
write something current without
yeah.
like the cell phone, the smartphone getting in the way. You know what I'm saying? Because if you
Exactly.
don't know where your friend is,
Yeah.
all my friends, I have all their locations, right? I can tell you where every one of them is right now. I
Right.
will pull up on you in a second, like, girl,
Yeah.
I know
I
you
have
at.
yours.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Or if I don't know something, I can Google it, But
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
so hard. Like, what do
For
we do with the
now, while
phone?
we still have a working internet.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And the movie it's inspired by so it was written by Ethan Cohen, one of the Coens brothers, and his wife Trisha Cook, who presumably is a bisexual because it's about inspired by her like
Yes.
queer, experience growing up as a lesbian in the 90s and her experience like visiting a bunch of dyke bars in the 90s.
Yeah.
So,
I love
it's of its
women.
time.
I love lesbians who have husbands. Like that's my favorite genre of dyke. Like, bitch, you're gay as hell. Like,
Really?
yes, I love it.
She did. I feel like she does. She's like, I'm a lesbian,
I love
but I
it.
married this man.
Exactly. I love it because these women have trained their husbands to be like, you're the only man that I like. And if I want a girlfriend, you're
Yeah.
just going to have to deal with that. It's not cheating either.
Yeah.
And I
I
dare
actually
you.
do know so many people like
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
admire them. They've learned how to train a man. Like All of the straight women need to be
And that
looking
man
to
is like,
them for advice,
yes,
really.
yes. Straight women buffoons, if any of y'all are listening, please hit up these lesbians that are married to
Reach
men
out.
because that's the kind of man you
That is the
need.
man you need. If you don't have a man who's okay with you being gay and his wife, like, do you
Yeah.
have a man?
Get rid of him. Do you have a man? But it was good. I recommend this movie starring Geraldine Vishwanathan, and you can tell by that last name that is a Tamil woman.
Yeah.
Okay, so shout out to the Tamil women.
Shout out to the Tamil
Viswanathan.
people
If you see a
for putting so many
yes,
consonants
thank
in their
you.
names. Like, how do you even fit? How do you get
It's like
V,
that.
S, W, T, and H and N in one name? Like,
Yes,
go ahead, go off.
it's still going.
Like,
I love that. I'll be like, I changed my last name recently, and I made sure I still had a long
oh
last
yeah,
name. You know what I
as
mean?
many
I was
letters
like, I
as you
don't want
can.
a single white person to think yeah, I shortened it for, like, convenience or
And you
anything,
don't want
so
them to shorten it
as
either.
long as how
Say the whole thing. I will repeat it as
no.
many times as you need me
Let's
to.
practice. I really do practice. I'll be like, "Hi, nice to meet you. This is my name. Can you say it with me?" And they're like, "Okay."
Yeah,
You know, if you're just,
yeah.
like, force
Because
people to do something, they usually will do it, you know, like,
exactly, they will. Exactly.
and Margaret Qualley. Do you know Margaret Qualley?
I don't.
She was in she was in The Substance. Have you heard of that movie
I've
recently?
heard of The
With Demi
Substance.
Moore?
I've heard of it, but I have not watched it yet.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. Mona watched it and loved it, and I think it's, like, too scary for me. I'm a bit of a baby when it comes to scary movies. So, I watched it through screenshots from Mona's, Instagram.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much how I've seen a lot of movies. I think I haven't watched
Yeah.
it because and Demi Moore, do your thing, girl. You deserve all the things, but she won that Golden Globe
Yeah.
for The Substance, and I wanted
Yeah, she did.
Cynthia Erivo to win it, so I was kind of like, bitch,
Right.
you know.
That's true.
Any white
Yeah, and
person
it's
that
kinda like they kinda had to give it to Demi Moore.
yeah, they did. They like, bitch, this could be it for you. This could be the last.
Yeah, and to make a movie about how this could be it for you, like, "Okay, we gotta
Yeah,
give it to you
exactly.
now,"
Like if
you
we don't
know?
give it to you, like we're ageist, just like the movie. Like
Yeah, you're
we
right.
gotta
We're
prove,
proving you
yeah,
right.
exactly. And this is an example of how affirmative action DEI serves white women the most. This is a DEI move. They were like, we gotta do this for
Wow.
diversity, equity, and
Yes.
inclusion. Old bitches don't ever win anything except Meryl Streep.
Yeah,
Meryl Streep is the winningest old bitch of Hollywood. And we gotta let somebody else
as she should
be
be.
old because Meryl Streep has looked old since
Yes,
1973. And Demi,
you are
she's
so
trying her
right.
best. You know, Meryl is out here aging
Yes.
openly. And Demi is like, please, nobody
Mm.
notice that I am old. They were like, no, we gotta make it okay for her to
Yeah.
be old.
Wow, and they did with
Yeah.
this finally, I guess.
Yeah, finally, I guess. And shout out to Meryl Streep, actually, while we're on the topic, because The
Yeah.
Substance is like the horror version of one of my favorite movies, Death Becomes Her, which is Meryl Streep and Goldie
Yes.
Hawn. And
So good.
it's such a great movie. Hilarious. And also Bruce Willis is in that movie. Demi Moore's
Yeah,
ex-husband,
and he
who
is hilarious in that role.
yes, so funny. And nobody ever talks people always
Playing
talk
like a
about
nerdy man.
yeah. And when Bruce Willis is one of the hottest white men on earth, I think. Honestly.
Whoa, Tribble?
I think he's so hot. I've always thought he
Interesting
was hot.
take.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I need to think about
yeah,
this. I
please.
don't wanna I don't know how to react to that.
He's like he's like there I used to go to high school. I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school with this boy, man now. And he was beautiful, beautiful white boy. And he
Okay,
was also really
okay.
quiet, very quiet, like painfully shy almost.
Mm.
But when you get to know him, he'll talk to
Aw.
you. But when he talks to you, what he says is like, I get why you're quiet. There's not a lot. There's not a lot going on. up there. But he's such a talented artist, and he really
Yeah.
can express himself through his painting and drawing, and he's like so creative.
Oh,
But
wow.
he's dumb as a
Cool.
box of rocks. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that way about Bruce Willis. I
Yeah.
feel like,
You have it all.
yeah, you can't have it all. And Bruce Willis often plays a man of few words who's just like, fight, punch.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
that is so hot. And he has dimples. Like, oh, that is so hot. Like, don't
Mm.
grunt, just
Wow.
grunt. I love that. I love a man that grunts.
My favorite type of white man is a quiet one.
Hmm.
So I see where you're going there.
Yeah, yeah,
And Death Becomes Her, when you said about Meryl Streep being old for a while, like I watched Death Becomes Her recently, like a few months ago, and I was surprised. Like she looked great, in that movie compared to now. But it was an interesting, like in that movie, she wants to look even younger
yeah.
too, right? Like she, like gets some magic to make her face look even younger in that movie too.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. It was so long ago and still, oh my God, there's actually a lot of parallels I'm thinking now between that and The Substance. But that was a
Yeah,
hilarious, amazing movie.
yeah. Death Becomes Her. I think they were
And
like 35.
oh, okay. Over the hill at
Yeah,
35, I guess. Like,
yeah. They were either 35 or 40. So now it's kind of hard to watch because I'm like at that age and I'm like, no, bitch, we're not there. I'm not there.
at
I'm
all.
not drinking it.
But
Mm-mm.
also me and you, we're gay and melanated. I feel like
Yes,
those are the number 2 top traits in not aging that fast.
that's right.
Like being a lesbian,
That's right.
being brown, obviously, black don't crack, brown don't frown. But
Hmm.
also being gay, like I don't have a man to piss me off all the
That's
time.
right. That's right. And they sell like snail slime for anti-aging skincare. I'm about to start selling my
I heard about
pussy
that.
juice for it because I think something
Oh,
about having
yes.
pussy on your face, it like does something for your skin. I don't
Yes.
know what, but I bet I could sell it.
Damn. That's a scientific fact.
It
Yeah.
has to be. It has to
You
be.
could. I would buy it.
Hell yeah, you would buy it.
I'm gonna pre-order right now.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna put pussy juice and rose water. Spray it on your face.
Wow. That sounds like something Erica Badu would
It
sell.
sure does.
Has she? Wait, has she sold?
She sold
I feel like
by
she sold
Dussy.
some pussy product.
Yeah, it's by Dussy. They were like her like scented things, like incense or something like that. I wanted to buy that shit because the way
Yeah.
that
Yeah, yes,
Erica
yes.
Badu keeps her a man, honey, I'm like the pussy must be immaculate.
Mm.
It's gotta be.
You know it is. Tribble, I can't wait to buy your pussy juice. Like, damn, this is so exciting. I'm gonna
Listen,
be like a retailer. I'm gonna like
yes.
sell it from my backyard.
Buy it on Thivia's Etsy shop. Tribble's Pussy Juice.
We're gonna sell in the Bufu merchandise. We're gonna be
Yes.
selling Tribble's
Yes.
pussy juice.
Yes.
So keep an eye out, buffoons.
Get her a what is it called?
Um,
HSN Home Shopping Network spot to sell my pussy juice. Like how would you describe it on
yes.
Home Shopping Network?
Wait. Oh my God. Luscious. I would say blessed.
Yes.
I think your pussy juice would. It's like blessed. It's like holy water. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
my
just walk
God.
around the house.
Yes. Holy water. Amen. Amen, Henny.
A woman.
Oh, all right.
Happy Women's History Month to us.
Okay, yes. Happy Women's History Month. Women are make the world go round, honestly.
Happy. I'm having so much fun with you,
Okay.
Tribble.
Yes, we
You
always
should
have
be
a
a
good
recurring
time. Two
guest.
fire signs.
Too.
I know. Give me a segment.
Exactly.
I could come on here and talk about what? What
Yes.
would I come over here and talk about?
Mm. I feel like I love when you hate something. Like you make me hate it too. I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, fuck them. You were right about
You
that.
know what? I think it's astrologically. So I talked to an astrologer a couple years ago and she was like, your chart, it tells me that like you can take in information really quickly and easily and like disseminate it. And you might not even know that you know something until you're saying it and you're like, how the hell
Yeah.
did I know that? And that's very true. I often say things with
Wow.
like a
Yeah.
level of confidence that makes it sound like I've researched this thing extensively when in reality, I don't know what the fuck I'm
Mm.
talking about. And a lot of times I'm wrong,
Mm.
but it doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me from saying it. It doesn't stop me from making somebody
And
else
it
believe
shouldn't.
that it's true. It doesn't. And
Yeah.
that does apply to when I hate something. I hate something with conviction. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
absolutely not. Yeah.
And being a comedian, you don't have to be right. That's
Mm-mm.
not your job,
No,
you know? Your job
absolutely.
is to make me think about stuff, right?
Yeah, a little
Like,
giggle. A little
I
giggle
could
is all
Google
I
stuff
need.
myself later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Google it and don't come back to me to be like, let me correct. No, don't correct me. I don't care. Obviously, if I
No,
cared, I would have Googled it. I
I
got
don't care.
Google
I've
too.
moved on.
Like, we're on to
Yeah,
the
exactly.
next. I'm on to the next research project. I'm a
Keep up.
scientist. I'm busy. I'm in the lab.
Yes.
Like,
I also I think you're really smart, and whenever I see you post something or share something, I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I know you're saying, like, you say things with confidence and you're wrong, but I don't think that's true. I think a lot of your especially, like, politics, like, larger issue, like, serious things, like, I think you're really smart, and I appreciate your takes on them, for real.
I appreciate that. I really do try to think critically. And it does take like
Yeah.
using everything that I've learned in life. And like, we went
Yeah.
to high school for so fucking long. Like, the shit that we learned in US history and fucking US government classes we had to take in high school, like, apply that shit
Yeah.
to the things that you're saying today.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be a political scientist.
Right.
Bitch, you had to pass US history. Everybody in this country did. So let's pull
Exactly.
that knowledge out and use it. And even just like socially,
Yeah.
like getting to
Yeah.
know people. Like, I feel like I'm an observer of people, and knowing the habits
Mm,
of people and the behaviors, like, it can inform a lot of things. Like, you really don't need to be an expert to
100%.
understand human behavior.
Yeah. Very true. I also think you have a very strong intuition. And so I think you
Thank you.
can know things without knowing why. I think you
Yeah.
pick up on like vibes and information that way.
That's a really beautiful
Yeah.
thing. And I think that taps into your spiritual journey because, and I've told you a bit of this story
Yes.
before, but for the listeners who have not heard it, but my mom, when my mom got pregnant with
Our
me,
buffoons.
right, the buffoons, listen to this story because it's great. When my mom got pregnant with me, she was told that she was not able to get pregnant. She had um, a laparoscopic uh, procedure done where they looked inside her uterus, and her doctor told her, when we touch your uterus, it's just crumbling. There's no way that you would be able to have a baby. And this
Whoa.
was around the time my mom was trying to give her life to Christ. Amen. And so she had
Wow.
somebody. I was raised in the apostolic faith, which is a supernatural
Mm.
denomination of Christianity where people believe in the Holy Ghost. They believe in
Oh.
like your body can be taken over by spirits during worship.
Mm.
And they believe in, the prophetic power of, people. So somebody prayed over her because she wanted to get pregnant so bad, and they prayed over her stomach, and then they prophesied over her womb. They were saying, like, you're going to have a baby girl and she is going to have the gift of discernment. This is something that they told her. Like, they basically told her, like, this child that you're going to
Wow.
give birth to is going to have an intuition, a strong intuition. And this year particularly, I've had people tell me a lot, like, you have a strong spiritual team, and you have a
Yes.
purpose that has been given to you, you know. And so it's so funny how all of that shit ties together, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody could ever
Yeah.
convince me that, spirit is not real, because I think that
Mm-mm.
my existence is proof of it. So thank you for saying that
Yes.
because you're validating and affirming
Wow.
what I already know to be true. So thank you.
Totally. And I recently found out, we have a spiritual team of like spirits, like people we've lost that are looking out for us, deities, things like that. And I learned recently that we also have like a spiritual team on earth, like your
Hmm.
friends who are spiritual, and connected to you and support you in that. And I feel like you are part of my earth spiritual team,
Yeah,
like
same.
we're here together. We're making some shit happen.
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
grateful for you,
Yeah,
Tribble.
so grateful. I I tell people all the time, like, our connection and like just the group of people, the community that we have together is
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
magical. Like, it's something that happened at a time
Magical.
when that's not even like what I was looking for or expecting, but like as time progressed, I started to realize more and more like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, this is what this was made for. Like, this is why I
Yeah.
showed up at this party in 2022.
Yep.
Like, this is why I tried to holler at this person on the street in 2013. Like, for all of
Yes.
this to culminate into like the most powerful
Word.
queer coven that I've ever been a part of. I'm grateful as
Yes.
hell. Like, my life is forever changed by
Me
our
too.
friendship and the community that we have together. So
I love you, Tribble.
I love you. I love you.
That's the perfect segue into talking about our board retreat, actually.
Yes.
Like a gathering of members of this coven. Um, so from some background for our buffoons, the last time I saw Tribble was a few weeks ago. Um, Me and Muna gathered our Bufu board members, who are, our friends and community members that love us and, we think would be supportive of the project that we're building here. Um, a lot of really incredible, powerful community members. And we gathered and we booked a little cabin upstate and spent the weekend like strategizing. I also, I was so grateful to be received by our board members and held and supported, that I also was like, I would love to support everybody here, with in a way in whatever they're working on. So it was a weekend where one of the days we talked about Bufu and how we could grow Bufu, and the second day it was like a fucking conference. Everyone had like 25 minutes and pitched their thing and asked for feedback. um and it was magical. Like we made some real magic happen then,
We did.
right?
We
Like
did. We did.
I felt so good.
It was beautiful, every aspect of it too, like, and it was a possibility model of
Mhm.
how friendships can work
Yes.
and how community can work. I was really
Yep.
kind of like transformed by it. Like, not even just by the ways that we engaged with Bufu and giving our input and help to the project, but also the ways that we engaged in like caring for each other. We split up the days for people to
Yeah.
cook together. I hate cooking with people. I'd be like, get the hell out the kitchen. I'm cooking. Like, but I,
Yeah.
as an agreement for the retreat,
Yeah.
I had to cook with several other people. And then I was able to witness like and share in taking care and being taken care of and like collaborating in a way that
Mhm.
I don't like cooking for people because I have this like staunch, or I don't like cooking with people. I love cooking for people,
Mhm.
but I don't like cooking with
Yeah.
people because I have this like really staunch like independence that a lot of times I feel
Mm.
like if I want something done right, I got to do it myself, you know? And you really don't.
Yeah, I
You
feel
really
you.
don't have to do everything alone or everything by yourself. And so that was even
In
transformative for
fact, you
me.
can't.
Yeah, you can. You absolutely
Yeah.
cannot. There's
Yeah.
no way that I would be able to cook for as many people as were at the retreat without being stressed or without like taking all fucking day, you know? We had some
Yeah, exactly.
amazing meals. We had some amazing conversations. We
Bomb
got to
ass food.
witness some great art
Yeah.
and like really give people hold each other in the things that we're trying to
Yes.
create and the things that we want to make possible for ourselves, which was so good. It
Yeah.
was
I
amazing.
really felt held. Like that's the word I kept saying. Like I felt like just hugged, loved, like loved on. Like it's a gift, that everyone gave we were giving gifts like with holding, what everyone's projects are, like the advice that we were giving, like. And I think also the I feel like the biggest thing that holds a lot of people back in whatever project they want to do is just self-doubt,
Yeah.
you know? So the confidence that we gave each other, the love that helped us find the confidence that we gave each other is like an immeasurable, like tool.
Yeah. And I think the antidote, I was talking about this in our book club today, but the antidote to self doubt
Oh, yeah.
is that outside affirmation and validation from people outside
Yes.
of yourself. You
Yes.
know, that voice that
Mhm.
comes from someone else that tells you, like, oh, I noticed this thing. I'm witnessing this thing about you. I notice this thing to be true
Yeah.
and powerful in you. It definitely quiets that inner voice that's
Yeah.
telling you to be fearful or telling you to doubt yourself, you
Yeah.
know. It was amazing. I
Friendship is
It
magic.
is
It
magic.
was.
I love my friends so much. My god.
Me
I would
too.
marry my
Yeah, we're
friends. Like,
blessed, for real. I
let's
feel that way every
yeah.
day.
Let's have
Yeah.
like a huge wedding where we marry each other.
Okay, I'm down. Let me go tell my boo, but, like, I'm sure she's down too, Like
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, we're all lesbians, why not?
Right. Let's be gay together in like more ways than romance, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to show more people my titties in a safe way,
Okay,
like
yes, this is a point of the board retreat that is not really talked about a lot. And that's when you tried to get me to show you my titties. You wanted us to trade off showing each other our titties.
oh, yeah?
And somebody in this group, because it was three of us in this interaction, and somebody was like, well, let me call my man and see if I can show my titties. Like, and I'm like, I have no
He was
one.
like, "How am I gonna
How am I gonna explain this? Like,
how am I
I'm
gonna
like,
go home and say, 'Yeah, they asked me to show my titties and I did,'"
and I
like
did. Like, well,
but that brings us back to our point about our lesbian friends with husbands,
yeah.
That husband should have been like, "Yeah, of course you could show your
And
titties."
he would have. He would have been
It was
like,
a girls' trip.
please show them
Yeah.
your titties. Like, that's cool. I know that he
Um,
would have.
that's also so funny because I remember this moment as I think you were trying to, like, leave the hot tub, and I was trying to convince you to stay in, and I was like, "Tribble, stay. No, I'll show you my titties." And you were like, "I already seen your titties." And I was like, "Okay, damn, like, they're still great, like, you should be wanting to see them again, but okay." And then I was like, "Oh, she'll show you her titties," and I was like, "I can't offer that, actually. Let me sit down."
No,
But
no. I never show anybody my titties. I'm a sorority girl. I'm in a sorority. And I do whenever I talk about this, I have to preface it by being like, it's a black sorority. So it's more valid than
yeah,
whatever
I
the
mean,
fuck,
I assumed, yeah,
yeah.
like
So but straight women, when they're in groups and have like an intimate, I feel like straight women don't often have like a sense of intimacy with other women. Like they kind of are scared of it. So like when you
mm,
have a group of women and you have like an
mm,
intimate relationship with them, they all of a sudden want to show each other their titties. Like they're like, okay, now that we know each other,
mm.
we're very close. We've done all these things. We have a sisterhood. Let's show each other our titties. And I'm like, bitch, what? That is not the progression of friendship. We don't go from like, let me tell you my emotional depth, let me share that with you, to being like, okay, now that I've shared with you like my childhood trauma, do you want to see my titties? Like, no. I don't want to see your titties. And I also
See,
feel
that's where I
like
disagree.
exactly. We don't we don't this is where we differ. You know what I'm saying? We
This
see
is
eye to
where
eye. We see eye to eye
I
on
wanna
many
see
things,
everybody's titties.
but I don't want to see nobody's
We do.
titties. I don't want to see nobody's titties. I also
That's
feel like
crazy.
this is a part of me
That's crazy.
that is influenced by the patriarchy, because if I see your titties, I want them in my mouth.
Mm.
So that's where I'm like, boundary. I can't
Mm.
see your titties. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Seeing, I want to touch
Mhm.
them. I want to squeeze them. I want to
Mm.
suck on them. Like,
I feel
like
you. The thing is, I feel that way too, but I just, like being horny, I'm just like, "Ooh." I'm just like, like, I'm always at least, like, 25% horny at any given moment, so
yeah.
it makes life fun. It
Yeah,
makes life
I can agree with that.
magical,
I
like,
can
to
agree with
be
that.
little.
I can agree with that. But I don't want to see your titties. I don't. And
I
I'm
feel
not
you.
going to show
Okay,
my
so
titties.
I'll stop showing you my titties, I
Yeah,
guess.
so in my sorority setting, I can remember the day everybody wanted to show each other their titties. I did not show anybody my titties. And I feel like I
Mhm,
left the room when this started to happen. I'm like,
mm,
I don't even want to see anybody's titties. I feel like
mm,
this is disrespectful to me as a lesbian who
mm,
really does like titties and wants to touch
mm.
them. Show them, like,
I see. Yeah,
think
I
of
feel you.
my feelings.
Okay,
Like
I see what you mean. It is disrespectful to lesbians.
it
Think of
is.
how horny I'm gonna be.
Exactly.
But you know what? The thing is, okay, I think even straight women get horny for women. I don't think that's
They
just for gay
love
women.
it. No, they love it. They
I,
love
you
it.
know, am
I
I
think
wrong?
it's
Is that
so
my well?
weird.
When I thought I was straight, I would be like, oh, all girls want to fuck girls. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that's like my residual straight logic.
No, yeah. I used to think that too. When I was in 8th grade, middle school is the time where like you're coming into your sexual awareness, you're doing a lot of like
Yeah,
exploratory things. And I have a friend who
yeah.
I'm still friends with today. We were best friends since like 7th grade. And we used to like we would pass each other notes. I still have a shoe box that I like decorated that's full of notes from just this friend. And a lot of our
That is
notes
so
we would
cute.
talk about like what we wanted to do sexually, like our desires and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
I was like,
Yeah,
I want to make out with a girl, and I feel like everybody does, and I think it'll be fun. Like,
yeah,
and then it started to escalate.
yeah,
Have you ever been to the store Spencer's?
yeah.
Spencer's Gifts. I was like, I'm gonna
What
buy
happened at Spencer's?
a dildo because I want to use this on a girl. I think that would be so fun. And I thought I was straight still.
Mm. Mhm.
And I was like, as I started to get
Huh.
older and the like desire and my like awareness started to escalate, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe I'm not straight. Maybe I actually do need to like think
Yeah.
deeper about this because this shit is too gay. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I feel you on that thinking because I used to think too, like,
Right.
I used to think, yeah, I would date a girl, like have sex with a girl, but I want to marry a man. And that idea to me is like
Mm.
now is insane. I hate the way that
Mary a
men
man?
smell. Yeah. Like a man's pheromones
Mm.
to me are like repulsive,
Mm.
which is,
Yeah.
yeah, it's super
Yeah.
gay
And
to
often
me.
the hygiene is bad too, so
That,
that doesn't help.
Even a clean man
And women are
stinks
so
to me.
soft.
Yes. Oh, I was
Yeah.
just talking about
Yeah.
this. I love a thigh that hasn't been to the gym.
Yes.
You know, I love a thigh that feels like putting your fingers into
Nice
a
and
bowl of
juicy.
jello. Just like, oh my God, have you ever even walked? I like to wonder, like, have you ever even stood up? Like, these
Yes.
thighs are juicy and soft as hell. I love that.
Me too. You speaking to my soul right now. Thank you for naming thighs, juicy thighs.
Yes.
Damn, this is not what I had planned to talk about, but
At
I love
all.
it.
Let's get back on track. We gotta
At
get back
all.
on track.
Back to the retreat. This is
Yeah.
how we got sidelined. Back to the retreat. One of the things I love that we did is um the retreat was facilitated by my other sister Altagracia, who is an incredible facilitator um and just magician, you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
really amazing. I think I would love to have her on as I have interviewed Alta actually for my old comedy show that I did in like 2019, 2020 called Senians, and I had her on as a guest because she's, you know, incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, she facilitated an exercise where so I had told her like my mission, one of my missions with this podcast is I want to build the revolution. Like if you ask me what the thing I want to do the most, like like ultimately if I had unlimited resources, like I want to inspire the revolution. I want to build the revolution. And so
Mhm.
that was an exercise that we freedom dreamed about. Like, okay, you want to do that? How could we help you do that? And you know, we really like thought about like how can we divest from current institutions, how can we build an ecosystem, how can we create the world that we want to live in, you
Mhm.
know, like because this shit's crumbling right
Oh yeah.
now and we might as well dream about it. And it was so cool to like get all the feedback from all of our friends there, and hear what thoughts they had to do this literally as a community.
Mhm.
It was so inspiring and really special.
Yeah. It was really inspiring and very special, and it definitely to me, it definitely served as like what revolution can be and what it can look like. How will we
Yes.
need to care for each other when this shit does crumble? Because
Yeah.
something that I always say is
Exactly.
I'm not willing to die for this shit. I didn't make it up. I
Mm.
don't uphold it and I'm not willing to
Yeah.
die for it. I don't think that my life is
Feel
worth
you.
this bullshit. But then in the midst of
Yeah.
destruction, because I think that though we live in a police state, we live in a militarized democracy
Yeah.
where we've learned through history that
Yep.
the only way to really facilitate a revolution is through violence. And so if I am not willing
Mhm.
to engage in the violence that it takes to like overthrow a government, how do I operate in the midst of
Yeah.
destruction that is creating a
Mhm.
new society? And I think that
Yeah.
the model of care that we were able to see at the board retreat really begins to answer that question. How do you live in
Yeah.
community with people who are not willing to die for this shit, who, whose lives don't
Yeah.
matter in the grand scheme of what, the society that we're living in. And so who shouldn't be willing to sacrifice themselves for this shit? Like, how do we care for each other and keep each other alive
Yeah.
in the midst of destruction? And it is through these ways of like supporting each other's dreams, supporting each other's like
Yes.
nutrition, um,
Yes.
supporting each other's joy, being there to witness and to take part in each other's joy. All of that is
Yeah.
super important.
It is. Like community, like the thing that makes me go on, like amidst everything happening in America and around the world these days is the fact that I feel so blessed and rich in
Yeah.
community, and I know we got us. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like I believe in us and I know we'll make it through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Um and I so we had this retreat and it was like really, really magical. Like, I also felt, what something I love about Alta's practices is it's rooted in indigenous practices, like we set up an altar, like we each contributed to an altar. The way, we like had opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, like I also felt really just connected to spirit that whole
Absolutely.
weekend.
Yep.
I feel like we all were, like the way we engaged, like all of our spiritual teams were with us, and present with us
Mhm.
there.
Absolutely. It was really nice to see people on like every part of the journey of spirituality. There were people there that said like, I'm not really a spiritual person, but then they would
Yeah,
present some shit like, bitch, that is very woo woo of you. Like people who didn't
100%.
even know
Yeah,
how they're honoring or connecting with spirit in their life, and people who are very committed to honoring and connecting with spirit in their
yeah,
life, and seeing how all of that really plays into like the spiritual part of their being. That was really beautiful.
yeah. You are so 100% right, and that's exactly like I also wanna say to our buffoons, like, we're talking. Me and Tribble right now are talking about spirit a lot, and I think we are both people that are connected to spirit deeply, but if this is new to you, um and you're like, "I don't know what the hell y'all are talking about. This sounds
Mhm.
kinda crazy." Like, that's okay, but I also encourage y'all to be open to it,
Mhm.
and I wanna spend some time, talking today too, like, about first of all, encouraging everybody to tap into that because we all have that connection,
Mhm.
and white supremacy
Mhm.
tried and successfully did for a lot of people, tried to sever it, but we can work past that, because all look at all these cultures around the world that are so connected to spirit, that have these practices where they are connected to their ancestors and, think about their ancestors and, deities and things like that. And that's our magic that we have, that white supremacy like targeted and intentionally, tried to sever us from,
Mhm.
because that's our magic.
Mhm.
And I feel like especially in this moment right now where shit is crumbling. I don't need to say anymore. I personally had like I've somewhat of a spiritual awakening this past fall. Um, and I'm like, I feel like I've come out to the end of the awakening. I feel like I'm awake now. And I feel like the timing of that is not a coincidence. I
Mhm.
think a lot of our spiritual teams see what's happening and need us to wake up and listen to them and
Yeah.
figure out another way forward.
Mhm. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Um, And with that, I want to share with you, Tribble, a little bit about this tarot reading that I got. Actually, it was like we had the Bufu retreat weekend, and then I had booked it for like the day I got back. So I literally like I ran back home and opened up my laptop, and I had this reading. Um, right then. So I'll try to sum it up for you. Essentially, I sought the reading out because I feel an inclination to go into politics. I'm from New York. I still live in New York. I love New York down, and I feel like I could save New York. Like I feel like that. But I sort of received this spiritual message that like in a thing I won't get into, but that I shouldn't go into politics because politics as we know it is changing and not working, which I'm like, yeah, I can see that,
Mhm.
like look at our president. And instead I should be a community organizer, which I already am, like just being who I am and living in this city my whole life. Like I know a lot of people. And I feel like activate a lot of people for things.
Mhm.
Um, so that was my question going into this reading. And this psychic who my friend Anu recommended to me, so like vetted, and I'd heard good things about, they told me, yeah, I shouldn't go into politics. I can't change any system from the inside. Like that's just how busted it is, and they were like, look at AOC, she's a sellout. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, straight up. You know what I mean? Like that's our progressive champion. She can't do shit. I mean, she can get things for her constituents, but she can't without selling out on other principles.
Mhm.
um and that's not me. And so the psychic told me, and maybe you've heard about this too, but essentially on Earth, there's going to be, and has kind of already started to be, like sort of energy divide. It's still on Earth, but there's like going to be Earth and New Earth. And so essentially people are going to wake up and realize, and more people will, oh, like this system isn't working.
Mhm.
This system is busted. Like I don't want to bust my ass all day to make a billionaire richer.
Mhm.
And the way, like, look at the way they're cutting all these social services. Like, people are going to starve, people are going to die. Like, we are about to, we're coming into some tough times. Like, people need to eat. So that's another reason why I told them about my awakening. And they were like, oh, you've been like doing a lot of shit. Like, you've been having a really fast awakening. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, also because a lot of this is happening really fast too. So we
Mhm.
need to get with it. Right.
Yeah.
And they told me, I'm being tapped by my spiritual team to be a community leader to bring people from Earth to New Earth. Like we're going to start living in like smaller communities essentially. It's very parable of the sower straight up,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and I imagine, like it's going to be a lot of what we just said, like building communities out, building infrastructure among us. What's our ecosystem look like? How can we take care of us? Which is, scary because we haven't done it yet. We don't know what it looks like. There's no blueprints for it. I mean, like, we can read Parable of the Sower and get some guidance, like for real. And all buffoons, let me just say, if you haven't read Parable of the Sower, do that first. Let's do a little buffoon book club or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so this is like my journey, to do. And they were like, don't worry about the long-term plan yet. Like your spiritual team will help reveal, you will get like missions one by one to do. And they'll be revealed to you one by one. So like don't stress about the long-term plan yet. Like just do what comes up for you to do, which is, helpful because I'm a fucking planner. I like need to get, to get shit done, you got to put things in place
That's
to get
right.
there, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, this is a super daunting task. So I was like, okay, cool. And she had told me, like, okay, rest for now. Because you've been doing a lot of shit. And I was like, perfect. Like when I had talked to them, I was just about to go on a week-long vacation to Puerto Rico where I just like laid out on the beach, and like connected, meditated.
Mhm.
And then they were like, on February 14th, around that time, your first mission will be like revealed to you. And I had actually already planned like a little community event for my New York City Tamil girls on February 15th. Um, that I like realized like that was my mission. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later off podcast. But yeah, so that's my reading. And I wanted to share that with
That's
you.
really amazing. I really love one, like how tapped in you've been and like how committed to this journey you've been. You've been like, oh shit, like this, there, like something opened up and you were like, I'm walking right through this door. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm full speed
Yeah.
ahead. So I really love that you're like deep into it and really committed to it and doing your part. Cause I
Thank
feel
you.
like a lot of people have a spiritual calling. A lot of people have spirit guides that are trying to get in touch with them and they just can't like
Yes.
quiet the noise of the world around them to like really tap in, but you really really tapped in and you're curious and you're like really after it and doing what you've been called to do. And there's certain things about it that you've been told that are like very very obvious about you.
Yeah.
Things that you are naturally good at. Like
Mm.
you're so good at getting people together and I think that it speaks a lot to your power, like as a community organizer, because things that
Mm.
people may think are just, you know, leisure. You're getting people together for Slogist, for instance, or for a Christmas
Yep.
party, you know, for people to have a good time. But then
Yeah.
people are awakened to like, oh, these people exist in my community, or oh, like I can celebrate
Mm.
this thing that, you know, or I can be celebrated for being a whore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this,
Yes.
I can do this
Yes.
and it be a
Yeah.
positive thing and something that impacts the people around me and something
Yeah.
that impacts the society that I live in. I think that's super powerful
Yep.
about what's been going on within your life spiritually and the way you've been able to connect like yeah, like I was saying, those people on both ends of the spectrum, those people who don't really feel a connection to
Yeah.
spirit, and those people who are super connected, and you're able to bring them all to the middle to be like,
Yes.
we're all doing this together. That's dope.
Yes. That's I'm so happy. First of all, thank you so much, Tribble. Thank you for seeing me and validating me, in that way. I'm so grateful to you. And exactly what you just said. So they had also told me a lot of my work is, or like part of my work is encouraging other people's spiritual
Mm-hmm.
awakenings.
Yep.
And I was like, I knew that actually.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I had just spent this weekend doing exactly that, like telling people, like, I know this stuff, you might be new to you, but if you sit with it, you can do it too. You know what I mean? If you just set the intention and try, just try
Yeah.
it. Like, just believe, just have a little faith. Like, why not? Let's believe magic is real. Why
Right. Why
not?
not? Yeah.
Like, look at what else is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You really have nothing to lose by
So,
believing magic is real.
exactly. And everything to gain. Everything.
Everything. Everything.
Um,
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the Artist Way.
Okay.
Tribble and I are in a book club reading The Artist Way together, with led by Altagracia, who we mentioned as our friend and sister, an
Yes.
incredible facilitator. And it's an exercise in like tapping into your inner artist slash your inner child, and like your creativity, and as a result like your spirituality, like I think a lot of that obviously is very very deeply connected. um and something I wanted to start on is synchronization is a chapter is a sort of concept in the recent chapter we read, because we were just saying, when you believe and when you're open to it, like things will happen for you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and I feel like I see that in you a lot. Like, you are like the queen of manifestation. You're like, I want this thing, and you just setting the intention and
Yeah.
saying it, right? The universe will be like, okay, I got you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Shout out to this necklace that I'm wearing. It says 1111 and Priya's partner Aaron got this for me for Christmas because I'm the queen of posting 1111 and people are always like, "Do you have an alarm set?" I don't have an alarm set,
Yes.
bitch. I'm tapped in. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-mm.
1111 finds me. I don't find her. Hello. But For me, this idea of synchronization has just been something that I was born into. Like going back to the story about my birth
Yeah.
story, my conception story. Um my mother has always told me that story over time. And something else that this person who prophesied over her womb was like, she's going to be able to do whatever she sets her mind to. She's going to be covered. She's going to have a strong spiritual team. Anything she wants, she will have. And so I
Mm.
have always believed that. And as a teenager, I remember the first time that I ever manifested on purpose. And it was
Mm.
my high school graduation. My aunt threw me a graduation party, and I needed $200 for something. I think it was like
Wow.
I had to pay for something or I had to buy stuff for my dorm. I don't know what it was, but I needed $200. And I remember asking at this time, like, I grew up Christian, and in high school, I was like really into church. I sang in like the youth band at church and shit. Like, I used to go to youth group all the
Mm.
time. Because spirituality just has been always been a huge part of my life. But I remember asking, and I
Mm.
said this in terms of a prayer. I remember asking for $200, and I was like, I need $200. And that night at my graduation party, I got cards with money in them, and I got exactly $200 in those cards. And I was like, I remember
Wow.
telling my mom because my mom was recognized like as a prophet in the apostolic church. And I remember telling my mom because she would
Oh,
always kind of say, like, pray, God will provide type shit. And I remember telling her, like,
wow.
you will never believe this shit. And my mom would be like, yeah, I do believe it
Yeah.
because that's how it works. And so
Yeah.
ever since then, I was like, damn, I can ask for something. There's some force, whether it is God, whether it is
Yeah.
spirit, universe, my spiritual team, like
Mm.
whether it is just the energy that is like hearing me and feeding back to me what I've put out. I can ask for anything that I want and I will receive it. And I've just always believed that. And so when it comes and goes because as people
Yeah.
growing up, when we come into adulthood, we learn like you need a job, you need money, you need goals, you need to have a
Yeah.
career. When I graduated college and I started working and I realized like, wow, this is not at all what I should be doing. People recognize gifts in me and they
Mm.
referred me to a career that was based in capitalism, and it was not at all based in what
Yeah.
my mission is. And so
Yes.
I would start asking, please reveal to me what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. And then I started meeting artists and realizing that people were living off of their art and their creativity. And I was like, damn, I
Yep.
should do this. And then the first
Yeah.
time I ever did stand up was because so I had been like just posting little funny one-liners on Facebook. And because I had met these artists, they had gotten to know me, and somebody asked me, "Hey, do you want to perform at my show?" And I had never done stand up, and I was like, "Yeah, I do want to perform." So I did stand up for the first time,
Yeah.
and just stepping out on a limb to say yes, I immediately had
Mm.
I had opportunities to come into contact with other stand-ups who have been doing it for a long time that were able to give me advice and give me feedback and validate me in ways that
Yes.
I never expected. I really expected to bomb the first time, but after that first time doing stand-up, I was literally booked for shows for 2 years straight. Like
What?
literally 2 years straight.
Holy shit.
And that came
Wow.
after I had developed this idea of catfishing myself, and catfishing for
Mm.
good. So I think
Okay.
everybody has seen the show Catfish. You've seen it. You know it's a catfish. If you haven't seen
Yeah.
Catfish,
Love that show.
I sympathize with you because you didn't have cable. Sorry about your luck. But the show Catfish is about people who fall in love with somebody on the internet without ever seeing them, and then they reveal themselves as a catfish because they weren't who they presented themselves to be. And so I was like, for some reason, this is also a moment of like intuition because for some reason, this idea of catfishing just was like
Yeah.
sticking out to me that led me to like research, well, what is the
Yeah.
origin of catfish? And there was a man
Mhm.
who wrote a story, I think it was like early 1900s or late 1800s, I don't know, some dude. He wrote this story,
Yeah.
and the story is basically like a fisherman. He has this job of exporting cod fish from, let's say, North America to China. And back then, they don't got
Mm.
like airplanes. They got to take these fish on a ship from North America to China. So it's a very, very long voyage.
Mm.
And so he would put these codfish like in a vat in the ship where they would be able to swim around because you want fish to keep swimming or else, just like people, if you don't work out, your muscles will start to atrophy, you're gonna be
Mm.
soft, you won't be able to do things.
Mm.
So he would take these cod from North America to China, and by the time they got there, the cod knew that they were on the way to their demise. And so they would be depressed on the way. Like nobody had no Zoloft for them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
They
no.
they were depressed, they were down. Honey, there was no therapist talking to them, trying to get them through it. And
Yeah.
so when they would get there, they wouldn't have
Damn.
swam the whole time and they would be slimy and he wouldn't be able to sell them. And so he got this idea to
Okay.
drop two catfish in the vat with the cod because catfish are a natural predator of codfish. And so the catfish would swim behind these cod, chase them around, trying to eat them. And so it would force the cod to swim. And so, and this author who wrote this story, he likened this idea to religious piety. He's saying, like, religion is the catfish that keeps you swimming.
Mm.
It keeps you like
Oh,
wanting to do the right
wow.
thing. So you get this reward of heaven at the end of your life or whatever. Um,
Wow.
and so I was like, oh, that's interesting because I can liken that to judgment. The catfish for me
Yes.
is the judgment of other people, is other people finding me out to be a fraud, which is not what I am because I know that I have
Mm.
these gifts naturally. But if
Mhm.
I'm not practicing them, if I'm not putting my gifts out into the world, or if I'm saying that I'm one thing and I'm not doing it, that makes me a fraud. So the fear of that is kind of the catfish that's chasing me,
Mm.
that's making me actually do the actions that allow me to work towards what I'm trying to manifest. And so I came up with this idea of
Oh,
catfishing myself. And what I do is I
wow.
present myself as something before I've done it. And this is something like I think I read The
Okay.
Secret during this time, which is a book
Okay.
about the power of
I don't know what
manifestation.
that is.
It's a really great book.
Oh,
It's
cool.
it's a bit problematic, but it's
Okay.
really great. It teaches you about manifestation. It teaches you about like saying things, visualization, basically. Visualizing what you want to be, saying what
Okay.
you want to be before you are that thing. But it doesn't really it's like the power of magical thinking. But we live in a world
Yeah.
where like you can't tell people like just think it and you'll be it. Like yes and no. Because
Yeah.
there are things that you need, like you
Mhm.
can't just think it, you can't lay down and dream all day. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to wake up
Yeah.
and do something.
You take
Yeah, you
steps.
have to let the thought
Yeah.
um move you, right? Like
Yeah.
and
Word.
so I really wanted to be a radio host. And so I like had reached out to a radio host in Chicago. I was living in Chicago at the time and I was like, "Hey, would it be cool for me to shadow you sometime because I really want to be a radio host, but I can't work for free, but I want to know how it works. I want to like get some
Yeah.
experience." And this person like didn't respond to me. I never got a response from them. But I was hosting bar trivia at the time, and people would always come up to me and be like, "You have a
Mm.
great voice. You should be on the radio." And I was like, "Fuck, I gotta do this." So that's how I started podcasting.
Yeah.
I started saying,
Oh,
"I'm a
shit.
broadcaster." And the way that I'm
Yes, you
gonna
are.
make people believe that I'm a broadcaster is by becoming one And that's by starting my own podcast. And then
Hell
before
yeah.
I started my podcast, I started listening to podcasts. And then at the end of every podcast, usually
Mm.
there's credits and people say, this podcast is produced by XYZ. And then I realized, oh, podcast producer is a job that I could have. Somebody could pay me to do this shit. So
Yes.
then I started asking other
Yes.
people who wanted to start a podcast. I started saying, well, would you let me produce your podcast for free? Because I'm trying to work
Mm.
towards this goal. And then people started to see me as a host. They started to see me as a podcast producer. I ended up, so it actually turned out that when I hit this person up about being on the radio, their co-host and producer on this morning show in Chicago on Chicago's public media station, they had reached out to me on
Mm.
Facebook to ask me to come to be on the show, but I did not see their message until 2 years later, after I had been working for 2 years on my podcast, after I had been working for 2 years as a comedian, as I had been working for 2 years, like developing the skills that I needed in order
Whoa.
to be the best that I could.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing now, like I realized
Wow.
later that like the voice in my head that tells me you're not ready, because that's I have that thing. Like I'm the person that is like, if
Yeah.
I want to do something, I got to go out and buy all the things I need. I got to read everything that I can. I got to be
Mm.
research trained. If I don't feel
Mhm.
trained, I don't feel capable.
Yeah.
And so, because I
Yeah,
had
totally.
this desire to do something else besides what I was doing in my career, I went out and trained myself to the best of my ability. And by the time
Yeah.
I saw this message, I felt completely ready to be an on air
Holy
contributor
shit.
on this radio show. And because I was an on air contributor to that radio show, 2 years after I started contributing on air, I got a job at that radio station as a host. You know what I'm saying? And this all
Holy
came from me
shit.
saying, I am this thing. I have the ability to do this thing because I
Yes.
know that I have these gifts already. And
Yeah.
then me not wanting to be a motherfucking liar, me not wanting to be a fraud,
Yep.
I went out and I trained myself
Yeah.
even without thinking about it. Everything that I did, it happened
Right.
to fall into place to be like a part of the stepping stones that I needed to get to, this ultimate
Right.
goal. And it felt like no effort. I used to say all the time, like, I have done nothing to deserve any of this shit that I've received. And that is
Mm.
just absolutely not the truth, because I did everything that I needed to
No.
do, everything that was required of me, but it didn't feel like effort because it was something that just came to me. It was something that I just
Yes.
naturally felt like I had to do in order to make these things become possible. And so, like, whenever I
Yes.
can teach somebody about this, like, idea of catfishing yourself, I fucking do that
Mm.
shit. Like,
Mhm.
catfish yourself. Tell you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to be anything. You want to be a motherfucking basketball player. You
Yeah.
5'2". You know what I'm saying? You like, I'm 5'2". I want to be a professional
Yeah.
basketball player. So what does that take? Like, I'm a basketball player. I'm a
Yeah.
basketball player. That means if I'm telling you I'm a hooper, I got to get out there and be better than
Mhm.
all the hoopers that are on the fucking court. And if I want to be better
Mm.
than all the hoopers on the court, that
Mhm.
means that I always need to be practicing. I got to be practicing my jump shot. I
Yeah.
definitely got to be practicing my layup. I got to be practicing the way that I
Yeah.
can respond to a defender when I'm underneath the hoop, because I'm so small that like anybody could block a shot. I got to be
Yeah.
practicing being stronger than these people. And that's
Exactly.
all going to lead you to doing the things that will help you get to that
Yeah.
goal, to that that skill that you need to be the thing that you said that you are.
Yes.
Because if you say you a hooper, you show up at the gym and you are
Exactly.
trash, you know what I'm saying? Like, people are gonna
Yeah.
clown. You're gonna be the
Mhm.
clown. You're gonna be the biggest clown of your
Mhm.
community. You're never gonna be able to come to the motherfucking gym or to the court ever a fucking again. And that's gonna make
Yeah.
you feel bad.
Yeah.
You're not gonna wanna live. You know what I'm saying? And so you are making a
Exactly.
commitment to
Yeah.
yourself that, like, just writing it down, like, I commit to myself
Exactly.
to doing this thing every day. No, you can't just say, like, I commit to meditating every day, because I have a personal issue like with meditation. I have ADHD. I struggle with
Mm. Yeah.
executive dysfunction. And so even if I tell myself I'm going to meditate for 1 minute every day, I cannot convince myself that a minute is not like too much time to risk doing something else, because
Mm.
executive dysfunction is telling me a minute
Mhm.
is forever. But if I tell myself
Yeah.
I am the most calm person that I've ever met, what is going to get me there?
Yeah.
It's being able to slow my mind
Yeah.
down. It's being able to respond
Yeah.
internally when I feel anger or when I feel activated. And how can I respond when I feel activated?
Mm.
Well, I'm going to have to learn how to listen to the activation that's happening in my mind. How can I learn to listen to the activation that's
Yeah.
happening in my mind and see it as that? Well, I got to meditate. So now I've made space
Yeah.
in what I see as being productive to meditate for 1 fucking minute. And
Yes.
it really helps. Oh my God, it helps. It has helped me so much to break down in my mind what makes me who I say I am versus what makes me a scammer. You know what I'm saying? Do I want to be a
Mm.
scammer?
Mhm. What am I lying
Exactly.
about?
Do I want to be a
Yeah.
liar or not? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
and this
Exactly.
weekend the artist way, that
Wow.
idea of synchronization, like it really definitely it speaks to that. It
Yes.
definitely speaks to that.
Right. I love that. And that's, so interesting too because when you first say catfish, um, it sounds like you're just lying about what you are,
Exactly.
but you're, like, avoiding being the liar.
Exactly.
You're making it a true sentiment.
Exactly. Exactly. If
Wow. I did not realize that that was, like, also the original story about the
yeah.
catfish, so the fear driving
Yeah,
you.
nobody really knows. One, because niggas, people don't want to read. Nobody wants to look
Yeah.
shit up. They're like, oh, catfish, cool,
Yeah.
great
Nobody wants to
name.
read
Like,
anymore.
nobody
Yeah.
has that
Yeah.
curiosity. Like, you got to be definitely curious
Yeah.
to figure this shit out. And I don't know. I can't remember like why I was like so curious enough to look this story up, read this entire story, and then come up with this whole like ethos for what I believe catfish is based on that. But
I love
it
that.
has helped to guide me through so much of my life and my
Mm.
career. And just like, I think it's
Mm.
2025, 10 years ago, I would sit here and tell you, I hate working. I'm not a good employee. I'm not good. I can't keep a job.
Aw.
By the time I graduated college, 2010, 2011, by 2015, I had been fired from 3 jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
Fired, like, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. Where I was like, "Man, I can't even argue with you. I was
Yeah.
fucking up." Like, you know?
Well, I feel like that also it speaks to you just weren't in alignment with your spirit
Exactly.
and your mission in
Exactly.
those jobs.
Exactly.
Like, I feel like some people I read this book that I recommend to a lot of people, probably to you, called Moving Beyond by Flora Lesink, and it's like a guide to tapping into your
Mm,
intuition, your, like, psychic
mm,
ability, your spirit connection, like, all that's connected. And something she says is like, you won't be successful until you are tapped into your
that's
spirit
right.
and doing what your spirit
That's
wants you to
right.
be doing or slash wants to be
That's
doing,
right.
you know? And when you finally listen to yourself and not like people outside you, like your parents or whatever, putting pressure on you to do something, when you listen to yourself and start doing the things that you want to be doing, doors will open for you.
Absolutely.
You will the universe will reward that, you know, like they'll send you opportunities and
Mhm.
guidance. So the thing you got to do is take advantage of
Mhm.
that, you know? Like that's what she says in the artist way too. Like when opportunities come to you, like don't deny them. Don't be too insecure to accept that opportunity. Like, yeah, be that person, be the filmmaker, be the artist, like pursue that and take the
That's right.
opportunities that are
That's
coming to
right.
you.
And you can't too like a lot of people will hear that and say, "Well, I want this thing and it's not coming to me." Well, that is not what your mission is. I always say I've
Yeah.
tried my best to like trick my spirit guides to give me $1 million cuz I'm like,
Yeah.
I need $1 million. Like my mom works and does like physical labor. My mom is 68 years old.
Mm, mhm.
And I'm like, if I had a
Yeah.
million dollars, I could pay my mom's rent. I could make sure that she didn't need to work. You know, she
Yep.
could work fewer
Yeah.
hours, but I could take care of her. And my spirit
Exactly.
team is like, that's not what you're here for, though. We're
Yeah.
not giving you
Ah.
that because that's not your mission. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, bro. Like, I know that would be
Yeah.
so nice for you, but
Yeah.
that's not what we have planned for you. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Very true.
maybe if you start doing what we have planned for you, then that will be a result of you being obedient. And like, but
Yeah. Yeah.
until then, you're gonna have to
Right.
carry this guilt. You're gonna have to carry like this dis-ease. Like,
Mm.
maybe listen, bro,
Mhm.
shut the hell up about this $1,000,000 and
Yeah.
open your ears.
Right.
Cause I'm still like, God damn. Like I keep asking, all right, maybe not 1,000,000,
Yeah.
but if I could make like,
Right.
and it's so funny too.
Negotiate.
Like, I use the app Rocket Money, and I remember
Okay.
like I've been asking like if I could make $5,000 a month, and my Rocket Money be like, you
Yeah.
spent $8,000 this month. And I'll be like, when did I have eight thousand
Damn.
dollars, bro? And my spiritual team is like,
Yeah.
you see what the fuck we talking about? Like, you see
Right.
how you're asking for the wrong thing, bro? Like, let's get serious. Like,
Yeah.
let's be fucking for real. Like, you're asking for the wrong
Right.
thing. So you really do got to tap in. You really
Yeah.
have to tap in. Take some time to like
Yeah.
listen, and it helps for me, especially when I'm getting to know new
Yeah.
people. And new people will be like, "Oh my god, you're so funny." And I'm like, "I haven't even tried to make you laugh this entire time. How the fuck do
Word.
you know that I'm funny?" Or
Word.
I remember the first time I met one of my podcast clients in person, or not even in person. It was
Yeah.
like like maybe 2 meetings in virtually, and she was like, I see that you're meant to be like in front of the camera." And there I was like
Yep.
stifling my personality. And she was like, and she still said this
That's how
shit.
bright you
That's
shine,
what I'm
Tribble.
saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes your spirit
Exactly.
guides will send people to you to tell you shit. Like, the other people that are tapped
Mm.
into
Yeah.
spirituality, like,
Word.
let them talk to you, let them speak to you,
Word.
and like listen to what they're saying, write it down. Even if you can't receive it or you don't
Word.
know what to do with it, write it down, because you'll come back to it later to be like,
Yeah.
damn,
Yep.
that's real. Like, yeah,
100%. That external validation.
it's
I want to ask you before we move on, what advice would you give to our buffoons that are like new, maybe don't know anything about spirituality, but like are interested and want to tap in? Like, where would you encourage them to start?
I would encourage them to start at their resistance. Like, what is it that
Mm.
you feel the worst about? You know, like, let's say you're like, oh, I don't want to
Mm.
be here. Like, why the fuck am I alive?
Yeah.
There's definitely a reason you're
Yeah.
alive. There's definitely a reason why you're
Yeah.
here right now. And so, what is it that you keep coming back to? Like, what is it that you feel naturally inclined to do? What is it that people come to you for?
Yeah.
A lot of times, like, people will say stuff to you like, you're so this, you're so that, and you won't even believe them because it's not something that you're trying to do. You're like, what are you even talking about?
Mm.
What are they
Mhm.
talking about? Like, get curious. Get curious about who you are.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're often blinded by this idea of merit, which is coming back to us now.
Yeah.
And we all hate the president. If you're listening to this and you don't hate who is president right now, like, what the fuck is wrong with you, honestly? But
Turn this off.
no,
I don't want to keep listening
keep
to
it
this
on, because
anymore.
you need to realize that
Keep it on, keep it
whatever
on.
voices in your head is a
Yeah.
fucking psycho. But um the
Yeah.
idea of like the reason why they're saying they're shutting down like DEI programs is because they want to get back to living in a
Yeah.
meritocracy. Well, merit is a myth. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, you
Mhm.
are
Yep.
born with gifts that were given to you freely. One of those gifts that was given to you
Mm.
without you having to ask for it is time. Time is the greatest gift that
Yeah.
you have been given. And so I
Okay.
think that it's a part of your mission as a human being to give your time freely. You work for money. That is something you're being
Yeah.
paid for. That's time that you're being
Mm.
paid for. But what do you give your time freely to? And when you give your time without
Word.
anything being given back to you, what is it that you're doing? What makes you want to do that? What drives you to
Right.
do that? I think that is a great
Yeah.
place to start. What is something that you do that doesn't give anything back to you materially? You can't take this shit to the grocery store to buy eggs with. What is that? What is that?
Right.
What is it? And
Yeah.
pay attention to it because it's a gift. It is a
It
gift.
is.
And it could be something as little as like, I like to fucking I like to play. I joke around with people all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Me too.
it's a gift to me. Things that aren't
Mhm.
funny. My sister,
Yeah.
she lived with multiple sclerosis for 20 years until she passed away in 2019.
Mm.
And
Mm.
every her MS was very progressive, and at every step of the progression, we came up with more jokes. We roasted her ass till the
Yeah.
end. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, look,
Word. Word.
we used to call her Shaky Jenks because when she first got sick, she used to shake. We used to be like,
No.
shaky ass, like we used
I'm
to call
fucking
her
dead.
wheelchair, her
That's
escalate.
real
Yes.
though.
And it like it didn't occur to me then, but later it was like, damn, like when I think about it emotionally, mentally, like what she must have been like dealing with, being able to
Mm.
laugh was a gift.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And being the
Yeah.
person that was able
It
to
is.
make her laugh, you know what I'm saying? Like that was
Yeah.
something that I
Yeah.
had to do. So I definitely would say, like, the
Yeah, you
first
did.
thing, think about what you do with no compensation. What is that thing? Is it late?
Yeah.
Do you know how to rest
And
real
what makes you
good?
so happy.
Yeah. You know how to take a nap,
Yeah.
bitch? Like, what does the
Yeah.
world need to know about napping that you know? You know what I'm saying? What is it about a
Yeah.
nap
Right.
that you know what I'm saying that makes you powerful? Like it could be the easiest,
Yeah.
the simplest thing,
Right.
But yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Tribble. I think that's incredible advice. And buffoons, listen, if you are someone who like, first of all, you heard all that Tribble is preaching today. Like, that's free, first of all.
Church.
You know, she gave that out for
Amen.
free. But if you're someone that's thinking about starting a podcast, if Bufu has inspired you, we just did this. Hit Tribble
Yes.
up, please. I'm begging you. Like, she's an incredible resource. She's so skilled, like technically, but also like business wise. Like, I can't even just the different categories of advice and consultation that she'd be able to give you that she has given me and Munna to get this off the ground, to get Bufu to be what it um, is fucking incredible. And so I can't like sing your praises enough,
I
Tribble.
appreciate it.
And I would love to know, what are you working on right now? What can we tap in to support you or hear
Yeah,
about?
well, in line with all of the spiritual woo woo shit we've been talking about, I have a podcast that I've produced with a super smart, knowledgeable, trained psychologist. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Mullen. She wrote a book called Decolonizing Therapy. And she has a podcast coming
Hell
out
yeah.
called From Root to Bone. The trailer is out right now.
Mm.
Episode 1 is going to be out on March 10th. So I would definitely encourage people to listen to
Awesome.
it, especially if you're somebody that's just getting into your spiritual journey. A lot of the
Mm.
guests that we have on this first season are people who practice spirituality in different ways, who they also tie spirituality into like therapeutic practices, into mental health practices. We're talking to Ruth King, who is the mother of rage, which is something that we talked about in the artist way this week, is like how anger is information.
Yes.
Ruth King is so fucking amazing.
Yep.
Ruth King practiced Buddhism. We
Cool.
talked to like a medium
Word.
who can uh talk to your ancestors or evoke ghosts, you know what I'm saying? Talk to ghosts basically. But these ghosts
Word.
also tell her about very physical things in your body. So like she kind of was able to tell Dr. Jen, like, hey girl, get your kidneys checked because I'm talking to your spirits, and Dr.
Wow.
Jen, it worked out for her. Um, we also talk to people who are just
Wow.
doing like great organizing work. Um, so I would definitely say give that a listen.
Cool.
It's The first season is 10 episodes. We have 10 really great guests, and
Okay.
it's going to be really good. I think I really put my foot in this one, and Dr. Jen did as well.
That's dope.
And then I'm also working on another
Awesome.
podcast called Patient in You with Victoria Reese. And Victoria Reese, this one is special to me. Victoria Reese has multiple sclerosis. And when she was diagnosed, she started a
Mm,
nonprofit called We Are Ill. And it is an advocacy organization for
mm,
Black women who are living with multiple sclerosis. In every therapeutic area, Black
mm.
women are the least studied. And so the ways that diseases affect Black
Yeah.
women, the treatments that work and don't work for Black women, they just don't know. So Black women end up having higher mortality rates, higher progression rates, everything negative having to do with treatment is just higher for Black women. And so Victoria Reese started this thing. And so now
Yeah.
she wants to have conversations with people who have other ailments outside of MS, people who are caregivers to people who are
Mm,
ill, who are experiencing physical or mental health challenges. And so we're going to be having some really great conversations with people about like bipolar disorder, psoriasis, vitiligo, diabetes, like all types of things that plague
wow.
especially Black women, but all of us. That's coming out in
Yeah.
April. So people should definitely listen to that.
Okay.
Learn how to advocate for yourself in healthcare,
Hell
learn how to
yeah.
help the people around you who are experiencing health challenges. I'm really excited about those things. And
Hmm.
I'm always doing coaching sessions for people who want to start podcasts. I think everybody has a
Dope.
story. And if you want to tell your story via podcast, I think that you should and you can. And I can help you do that in a way that feels good, that feels productive, where you can feel like a professional, where you can do it right. You don't got to feel no fear because I'm going to give you the
Yeah.
motherfucking framework for how to do it right. And if you want to do
Word.
that, you can go to my website. It's tribbsthecool.com. It's TRIBBZ thecool.com. And that's also how you can find me on socials at tribsthecool on everything.
Dope. I want to first of all, I'm so excited for both of those podcasts, and it's like we needed those podcasts to exist
Yeah,
yesterday. Like this is some real important shit for people to
absolutely.
learn and know about. So I'm really
Absolutely.
excited for
Thank
both
you.
of those. And I also want to plug your like you have all these technical and business skills that are also incredible that are really incredible, but you also have like first of all, you're fun as hell. Like it's just fun working with you, like spending time with you
Oh,
in
I love
general,
a
but
good
especially
time.
working with you, it's really fun.
Mm.
Yeah, you do. You don't know how to have a bad time,
Hell
I
no,
think.
I don't.
And you really help, sometimes, especially in the beginning, me and Mona would hit these like technical walls and feel so discouraged, but you would help us find the confidence in ourselves. You believed in Bufu so hard, you were like, this is, a really great concept and you guys will be making, talking your shit. And I want to help you make that. And so I feel like that's like, invaluable. Like that's a skill that you can't really, even if you want to start a podcast and you're not sure where to look for, like the fact that you bring that with
Yeah.
you too, is really
Yeah.
incredible. And so reach out to Tribble,
Yeah,
y'all.
thank you so much. I love encouraging people about, what they do have
Yeah,
cuz yeah, starting a podcast or starting anything new can be really daunting when you think about the skills that you don't have. But when it comes to podcasting, the one thing that you have that like you can't learn is your story. You know it better than anybody.
exactly.
And that's the most important
Word.
thing that it takes
Hmm.
to start a good podcast or create a good podcast is knowing your story best and telling it
Exactly.
in the way that you want to tell it. Yeah.
Period. Yes. Thank you,
Thank
Tribble.
you.
Cool. So before we wrap up, I wanted to chat a little bit about someone who became an ancestor to society recently, Michelle
Mhm.
Trachtenberg. That was a real loss. A lot of us grew up with her. I saw you posting, Tribble, that she was, really important to you growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your
Yeah,
loss,
bro.
Tribble.
Okay, the crazy thing, which I haven't said this cuz I'm like I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but about maybe a week, maybe like a couple days before we learned about her passing, I thought about her. And I was like, damn, Harriet the
Wow.
Spy, like that used to be my shit. And I've always thought about her in terms
Wow.
of that movie specifically. So I thought about Harriet the Spy and I was like, damn, I wonder what's
Yeah.
going on with her. Um, And it kind of stayed on my mind, like, just like, in the recesses of
Whoa.
my mind for like a few days. And then we learned that she passed. And so the fact that it was on my mind before it happened, it just led me to really think
Yeah.
deeply about like what Michelle Trachtenberg meant to me as a person. Like, why did I love Harriet the Spy so much?
Yep.
And I think I
Yep.
had I used to love composition notebooks, and Harriet the Spy's
Oh,
like her journal was a composition notebook, the black and white.
yes.
It's always been my favorite.
The
Yeah, the
classic.
classic. It's always been my favorite thing to write in. And I would like, when I was a kid, I would write stories, and I would write like little plays in my composition notebook. And Harriet the Spy
Oh my God.
really inspired that for me. Like, I used to want to be a writer. Like, that was one of
Yes.
my early career paths. And
Oh,
Harriet the
wow,
Spy
Tribble.
is the one
Mhm.
character that encouraged that for me. But I also
Yep.
realized that like the reason I loved Harriet the Spy so much is because Rosie O'Donnell, man, who is like the white Queen Latifah, like, who can't hide being gay if she tried.
Yes.
Like, tell us what you want to, bitch. We know you're a dyke.
Couldn't.
Like,
Mhm.
and her being so
Mhm.
close to like a child, me and Harriet the
Yeah.
Spy were like almost the same age. And
Yeah.
being able to like have a positive relationship where nobody was kind of like interjecting or trying to convince you that this person's identity was wrong, that like meant so much to me. I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, like I wish that I was Harriet
Yeah.
the Spy and I had a friend who was a
Yeah.
dyke who gave me positive information and was a
Mhm.
positive influence in my life, so that I knew that I could grow up and be gay and whatever else it is that I wanted to be. So shout out to Michelle Trachtenberg for just like
Wow.
embodying that character and just like being,
For
yeah, just
sure.
being a guide, a guiding post for little
Mhm.
me, bro. Like, RIP, man. I feel for
Definitely.
her, because I know that it feels to me deep in my spirit, like it feels like there's a lot of pain, you know what I'm saying, that like we'll never know.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
hope that, wherever she
Exactly.
is, wherever her soul may be, that she has peace at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read that when people pass, they're always at
Yeah.
peace, like being on the other side, like and they're also over there with like everyone else they
Right.
lost before
Yeah.
too, like those loved ones. So they're happy. So, I hope she's doing
Yeah.
okay. And we love you and we're grateful to you, Michelle, for
Yes.
all you
So
brought
much
to us.
gratitude.
Well, before we sign out, I want to say buffoons. I know we got into to all kinds of antics today on the podcast, but if you have any thoughts, maybe like more questions about tapping into spirituality or anything else, you want some advice, you're in a situationship and you want to either get out or get into a real relationship, whatever you have questions about, we will read and respond to anything, anything, anything. We love you, buffoons. So email us at bufupod, bufupod @gmail.com, and we'll read it. We will read it on the
Or
air,
will
honestly.
you
Like, I
read?
don't care. This is,
Ah,
oh, I
we will
will read.
read
I know
and
Muna
read. Yeah,
will
it's gonna be
read.
two reads.
Read it. Exactly.
Yes.
So hit us up. Let us know. Yeah. And that's our episode. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple. And our handle is at BufuPod. Check us out on YouTube, where we post full episodes under at Bufu Podcast. Leave us a review too on all these platforms. It helps us grow our audience and help more buffoons find us. Spread the love. And if you know someone in real life who listens to podcasts and you like this, like, send to them. Just, word of mouth. Follow us on social media. We are at BufuPod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I refuse to say X. I ain't calling that shit X. I'm
Somebody
sorry.
said,
And
"Is Mama name him Twitter? I'm gonna call him Twitter." I said, "Amen."
exactly. What's your government name? And make sure to follow Miss Tribble here. You want to give them your handle
It's
one more
at
time?
Tribs the Cool. That's TRIBBZ the Cool.
Beautiful. See you next time, buffoons.
Bye.